Hello everybody, welcome back to Doing Bart Things, and today in this decidedly low rent production, um, I decided to go over a couple things and just, you know, catch everybody up on sort of the latest goings-ons of the internet in the world of PCs, gaming PCs, that kind of thing. So, first things up, Navi. So this is the AMD GPU, which would have been the Navi41 and 42 dies. It's basically, it would have been the RX like 8900, I guess. Kind of like we have the 7900 XTX now. This would have been the next step in that. There was a big hubbub about AMD potentially leaving the high-end market. They have not completely left the high-end market. That's not what's happened. What's happened is they attempted to... So what happens is basically when a company develops a chip, right? They develop multiple chips at the same time. And then at some point, the mind share in that company will look at those chips and say, okay, give me the prognosis. Like, what do we think of these, right? They'll look at each design and they'll go, let's go with that design. And this decision is usually made a long time before they decide on running with it. And usually they've got teams running in parallel, right? So they make a decision on design. The team, there's a team that works on that design, and then another team goes on to the next thing. So that way you can keep, even though it's a years and years process a lot of times to bring some of these architectures to market, because you have multiple teams, they'll work, like they'll leapfrog each other, and basically as one team is working on this GPU, another team is working on the one that's after it, and so on. So what happened was this got fairly close, and they started to run into some real problems. And I think from Moore's Law is Dead, basically pretty good YouTuber, like I would go check him out if you get the chance. But he basically had a leaked, this is the leaked what it would have been, but they decided not to go forward with it because if you look, like they really broke it down. Like this thing is super individually broken down, and it's pretty complex. What I think's happened is the various connections and things they had to do in order to make this chip work for all these different modules, it just wasn't working out the way they planned it. And I don't think it was necessarily the design. What I'm gathering is that it was actually the chiplets. Like the chiplets just weren't working well together in this configuration. Supposedly, the next dies, Navi 5, supposedly actually is really on track. Like they don't seem to be having much issues with that. So they made a decision basically to cancel the high end. The lower end chips, which would be Navi 43 and 44, are actually monolithic dies, so they're not this like crazy design. They're just chips, all in one, and they are fine. So we're going to see the low end come out. Think kind of like the Polaris GPUs that came out. They were really good, like sort of low mid end GPUs. They could try to do some more with them, but I really think Navi 4 is going to be a very limited style deal. However, all signs seem to indicate that they canceled this to move forward to Navi 5, which seems to be doing pretty well, and they're going to try to bring that to market a little bit quicker. They're still not going to. We believe, and this is what Moore's Law is Dead said. He doesn't believe that they're going to make it in market with that GPU in time to directly compete with NVIDIA's 5000 series, let's say. But it would probably come out months after the 5000 series has come out. Not years, like it would be just maybe up to a half year later. So that's really not that bad. That means they're not completely giving up on the high-end market. It's just, what sucks is NVIDIA will, once again, they'll come out with something first, and they're going to charge God knows what now for that GPU if they release a high-end 5000 series, which I think they will. The 6000 is where it starts getting a little bit like if they do a 6000 where we may see NVIDIA start to really lean into. We don't necessarily need to make high-end GPUs anymore. We can just lean on the AI market to sell our high-end silicon. So that's going to be something to keep an eye out for. But for now, 6000 series is the one to look out for as far as that's concerned. I think 5000 series is going to be a full lineup of high-end cards. Although your top-end card may cost $2,000 now. Who knows? The 5080 may be $1,500. Like, I don't know. It could get really crazy prices to start with. So. And I don't know if NVIDIA cares because they're absolutely making money hand over fist with the AI chips they're selling, and I don't think it matters. So we'll see. But AMD has not left the high-end market. I think, at least my hope is, they will, between now and then, because we're talking mid to late 2025 probably for let me think, for the Navi 5 to start coming around. Even if they push it up, it probably was meant to be like an end of 2025 part. If they pull it up like half a year, that's mid 2025. The 5000 series NVIDIA cards are slated to kind of come out in 2025, probably early. So that's kind of what you're looking at, I think. Now, the low end parts for Navi 4 should be decent. Those cards seem to be, at least Rumor Mill says, they're doing all right. So those ought to be do pretty well. Just some shots of the dies here if you want. They have a few more code names. But anyway, I think what AMD should probably do is consider making a big Navi 3.5. They've got a Navi 3.5 on the roadmap that's supposed to be with one of their mobile CPUs. And I think they would probably be well served to kind of cover that gap of releasing a Navi 3.5, basically sort of a better operating Navi 3, maybe with some higher clock memory, a little bit higher core clocks, bin parts. If they could release I don't really even think they need to release a new mid-range so much. They could reduce prices. So they could come out with a RX 7950 XTX, right, and slot that in at around the $1,000 mark and then lower the price on the rest of the cards. I think if they were to do that, they would put themselves in a pretty decent position to be ready for. NVIDIA may well refresh their cards, especially the mid-range, and I think that AMD should probably consider that and kind of get their ducks in a row lined up to answer that. And I think if they do that, even if the 5000 series releases before their stuff, they'll still have some decent parts out there at least. Navi 3 is not bad, really. I mean, it was a little disappointing, but it wasn't bad. The 7900 XTX seems to be a great card. It's selling pretty well. So I think they could maybe do okay that way. We'll have to see. So it's a little bit disappointing because we would like to have seen this monstrosity make the market, but it doesn't look like it's going to be. So if you were holding out for a high-end AMD card for the next generation, be aware of this because you may want to change your strategy and think maybe I need to get, if you really want a super high-end card, maybe 4090 7900 XTX probably is going to be the way to go for a while. I think you kind of missed the bottom during the summer. You can always look for some Black Friday stuff, maybe going into next year, that kind of thing. Anyway, that's one update there, sort of like kind of bad. Good news maybe if they pull Navi 5 up and if it's operating really well, and that could maybe give some competition back. We'll have to see. We still believe right now that Battle Mage for Intel is due at the beginning of next year, but that still is looking like it's going to be sort of the mid-range part, maybe. Not sure on that. Could be pretty competitive. Might be somewhat compelling, but we'll have to see. Next item up is the i7 1400K or 14700K, 14700K. Whoa. Okay, there you go. Intel, I'm telling you, man, do something with these numbers, please. Okay. So this is on Guru of 3D, and it kind of confirms what I was thinking about or what I said about the 14th gen. I should just say 14th gen. That's way easier. So the top 14th gen is staying the same as 13 gen top end. Your 14900K and your 13900K are going to have the same amount of cores. 14th gen is going to clock up a bit higher. It's going to take a little bit more power. But the models below that are getting some more cores, some of them. Like the 14700K is actually getting, it looks like, 2 more efficiency cores. If you look here, threads, this is, oh, and you can even see here like 8 plus 12, and that's 8 plus 8. So basically you're going to get 12 more efficiency cores, or not 12 more, sorry. You're getting 12 total. Man, I am tongue-tied tonight. You're getting 12 total, and then you're getting 8 total for the outgoing model. It's going to be a little faster. Mainly, you can see here it clocks up a little bit faster too, probably, due to the extra power limit. And then you can see here around 4% single-threaded, 20% multi-thread, which I don't bat an eye at. Like I expected that with it being more, just literally having more cores. That's not surprising. You can see here it does a little bit, it goes a little bit faster in SynBitch as well. 4.5% single thread. Where is the, or is this just okay, well, there's no, it's like no 14. What's going on with that chart? That's a weird chart. I don't see any 1400 here. That's a 14th gen. That's weird. Okay, it's supposed to be a 14th gen article, but I don't see in these charts. Maybe I'm missing it, or maybe this is just mismarked or something. I don't know. All right, I don't know. Anyway, I would not anticipate a giant performance leap in, like, say, gaming, right? It'll be a little bit more efficient, but it's going to take more power. And I think the whole point of it is basically it takes more oomph and it goes a little bit higher in clock speed. There might be a little bit more cache, maybe, I don't know. I haven't seen that really confirmed. But honestly, I think this is just they threw a few more cores at the mid-range and they gave a little more clock speed. They loosened up the power limits to let it clock up some more with probably some bend silicon. I think that's really the only difference. So basically, I guess what I should say, there may be some better memory compatibility, possibly. We'll have to see. I would probably not be, if you're just building right now, I wouldn't be that concerned. At the end of the day, especially if you're building a gaming rig, it's the performance cores that you're curious about. Those are the ones you want. So you want those 8 performance cores. That's really where you get your gaming performance from. The efficiency cores really don't do much for gaming. So I think you really want to get your hands on 8 performance cores if you can. The 13600K is a great chip, and it will do just fine. I think that maybe we'll see price reductions on some of that stuff. So, I mean, 13600K may become more of a better deal than what it was. That would be pretty awesome. But yeah, so really nothing much to talk about there. I would say, if you just want to wait for the 14th gen, it's not going to hurt anything. It's going to slot into your current Z790 motherboard. No problem. You may have to do a BIOS update, obviously. If you are just really needing to build a PC today, get yourself a 13th gen if you need Intel, and don't look back, right? If the machine is only for gaming, I would consider a 7800X3D, probably, for just a pure gaming machine. That would be something maybe I would look at if you really just don't need all the threads. I think it's probably going to be about the same price as a 14700K, and I think it's going to be competitive, maybe beat a 14700K still. Like I don't think this chip catches a 7800X3D in some games. Some games it will, it's going to be a mixed bag, as always. Always go and check your benchmarks on the specific game that you play and try to make an educated decision that way. But I do anticipate the 7800 X3D will still win. This will get a little closer in some of those titles, maybe even edge it out slightly. But you're going to be looking at probably matching it with some very high-end RAM to do so. And you'll just have to make the decision on whether or not that's worth it to you. I would be honestly sort of interested in this chip because, just to tinker around with. But I think I don't think you can really go wrong. I mean, honestly, I think these will be good. Now, the next year will be a new revision for Intel. They'll go to, I think it's Alder Lake. This is Raptor Lake refresh. So it's basically the same thing as Raptor Lake. It's just these are a little bit better chips than what was before. And again, not by much, right? We're talking, again, single thread of 4%, right? Nothing to scream home about. I mean, as a matter of fact, if it was a percent point less, I would almost be like, that's within margin of error. Unless you can just totally reproduce it in every single thing, then I'd be like, that's kind of almost within margin of error. Anything under 5% sort of starts getting that way. But if it's just consistently repeatable over and over again, then we can go ahead and call it a gain, even though it's not that much. But I would say that your big gains for Intel are not going to be until next year. And that's when they come out with, I believe it's Alder Lake. And Alder Lake is going to be a little bit different. They're going to have some different things kind of going on with it. I don't think it's going to feature hyper-threading. I don't think. That's kind of rumor mill. They've got something else in store for that chip. And then the big redesign is the one after it, which I forget now what they called it. I'd have to go look it up. Maybe that'll be another video. We'll go look that up and we can talk about that, because there's some interesting things that Intel actually has planned for that life after hyperthreading, which is crazy to me. Hyperthreading used to be, when it came out, I remember it was like this crazy big deal. And really, it makes sense now that hyperthreading is sort of, it's still effective, but it's kind of losing some of its effectiveness. And the reason I think, and again, I'm just guesstimating here, okay? Like, please, if someone knows better or correct information, then feel free to correct me. I'm not trying to spread FUD. I'm just making a speculation. Hyperthreading was a great way to offer more bandwidth, more cores, basically, or more logical cores, not physical ones. And what it did is basically it would kind of, if you have a program running, not all software is optimized the same, and you'd have gaps, right? So basically a program would do something that would cause it to have a gap, and then hyperthreading, what it would do is go, well, since that is stopped, I'm going to go ahead and grab and start work on something else, and then come back to that. Except it just does it at absolute light speed, right? And this is great because there were a lot of really unoptimized code out there, and it seemed like hyperthreading was a great answer for that because it would really let you sort of optimize things out. Now, software works a little differently, I think, and we're reaching the point where physically having a core is better than hyperthreading. That much I can say with absolute definity. Having an extra core is higher performance than having hyperthreading. So there's never a point where, and again, it could get really crazy because there's four-way SMT or simultaneous multi-threading. Like, there's a lot of different stuff out there. But your rule of thumb is a logical core is not greater than a physical one. If you have a hyper-threaded core, that's probably not going to be as fast as if you actually just had two cores. And I think we're getting to the point where we're going back to that, going, well, now it's starting to become less efficient because hyperthreading has a heat cost. There's overhead to it. And I think that they're like, well, we have all these physical cores. We don't need, at least from Intel's standpoint, it sounds like they're like, we don't really need to hyperthread because we have They literally have desktop chips that are just mainstream chips that have like 20 cores or whatever. So I think they're sort of getting to the point where they're like, okay, maybe this is the way to go. And they've got something planned with the revision after Alder Lake that is more appetizing than just hyperthreading. So we'll have to wait and see sort of what that is. Kind of interesting, I thought. AMD so far seems to be totally good with SMT, which is exactly the same thing. SMT and hyperthreading are the same thing. It's multi-threading. And their hyperthreading seems to be working good, and they seem to be happy with it. So I don't see them really changing, at least not this next generation. The next generation is supposed to be really big for them. The Ryzen 8000 series is supposed to be coming along quite nicely. So we'll have to see what the details are on that. Yeah, so I think that's it. I think I blabbed your head off pretty good for tonight. So I'll probably leave it at that. One note, I did want to. Unfortunately, I am hopefully moving houses here soon. We're in the process of trying to sell our house, and it looks like, due to the move and all the expenses associated with that, I'm probably not going to be able to build something new, because I really wanted to, and just for the first time on the channel, have like a build video. But it may be just me taking my old system and putting it into a new case, with those fans that I sort of showed off in a different video. So that may be all I really get to do for now. We'll see. But anyway, just letting you guys know I hadn't forgotten about maybe trying to build something. I would love to, but we'll see if that happens. If you like the video, like and subscribe. If you want to hear me ramble more, maybe leave a comment, whatever. But at any rate, no matter what you decide, please have a great week and take care.